Do you believe in guardian angels? Not the kind painted on church walls or carved into stone, but the kind that walk unseen, the kind that stay behind when the grave is filled. Do you believe in supernatural beings, spirits that do not haunt but protect, that do not destroy but defend the innocent when the world turns cruel? Elders say when a mother dies with unfinished love, her spirit does not rest. It watches, it listens, and when her children cry in silence, she answers in ways no human hand can explain. This is not a story of horror. It is a story of protection, a story of justice, a story of 3 children who lost their mother too soon and discovered they were never truly alone. Slow pause. This is their story. They were 3 children sitting side by side on a cold wooden hospital bench. The bench creaked each time someone shifted, but none of them moved much. It was as if even their bodies were afraid to disturb what was happening inside the room before them. Amara sat upright, her back straight, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She was 15, too young to be strong, too old to pretend she wasn't scared. She had cried earlier when no one was looking, until her eyes burned. Now she stared at the white hospital wall, biting the inside of her cheek, forcing herself to be the one who did not break. Kosi sat next to her, 12 years old, quiet and observant. His feet barely touched the ground. He said nothing, but his eyes followed every nurse that passed, every door that opened, every sound that came from behind the curtain. He held his tears the way people hold secrets, tight, heavy, and painful. And then there was Lulu, 8 years old, small, innocent. She swung her feet back and forth slowly, humming under her breath, clutching the edge of Amara's dress. Every few minutes she leaned forward and asked the same question in a small, hopeful voice. "When will Mommy wake up?" No one answered her. Their mother's name was Nalia. She lay on the hospital bed, thin as a whisper, her body almost disappearing beneath the white sheets. Tubes ran into her arms. A machine beside her made soft, steady sounds, sounds that felt too loud in the quiet room. Her breathing was shallow, uneven, like someone struggling to stay afloat in deep water. But her eyes were gentle. When she saw her children standing by the bed, something softened in her face. She looked at them slowly, carefully, as if she was trying to memorize every detail. The curve of Amara's jaw, the seriousness in Kosi's eyes, the small scar on Lulu's knee. She knew. Time was running out. With what little strength she had left, she reached for Amara's hand. Her fingers were cold. "Be strong, my daughter," she whispered, her voice barely louder than air. "But don't forget how to cry. Strength without tears will harden your heart." Amara nodded, even as tears spilled down her face. Nalia then lifted her trembling hand and rested it gently on Kosi's head. "Watch carefully," she said. "Truth hides where people think no one is looking. Your eyes will protect you." Kosi swallowed hard and nodded, his lips shaking. Then Nalia turned to Lulu. She smiled. It was a soft smile, a mother's smile, the kind that tries to make fear disappear. "You will never sleep alone," she said quietly. Lulu smiled back. "I know, Mommy," she said confidently. "You're just tired." Nalia closed her eyes. A few seconds passed, then a few more. The machine beside the bed changed its sound. A long, flat tone filled the room. The nurse rushed in. The doctor followed. Hands moved quickly. Voices spoke urgently. But the children already knew. Amara felt it first, a heavy silence pressing into her chest. Kosi's knees went weak. Lulu stopped swinging her feet. Minutes later, the doctor turned to them and spoke words that felt distant, unreal. "I'm sorry." And just like that, the house lost its voice. The days after the burial did not move forward, they dragged. At first, the compound was full. Neighbours came with bowls of rice and pots of soup. Women sat under the tree, sighing loudly, shaking their heads, saying, "Ehya, life." Men spoke in low tones and avoided looking at the children for too long. But grief has an expiry date in the eyes of the world. After 1 week, the visitors reduced. After 2 weeks, the cooking stopped. After 1 month, the house became quiet in a way that pressed on the chest. The plates were empty more often. The gate stayed closed. And the laughter that once lived in the house did not return. Their father changed. He used to wake them early for school, calling their names one by one. Now, mornings passed without words. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, or left the house before dawn and returned late with the smell of alcohol clinging to his clothes. He stopped asking about school, stopped asking if they had eaten, stopped noticing when Lulu cried herself to sleep. When Amara tried to speak to him, he waved her away. When Kosi stood quietly beside him, he acted as if the boy was not there. Grief hardened him, but guilt buried him deeper. At night, the children heard him talking to himself, sometimes calling their mother's name, sometimes cursing under his breath. Other nights, he came home drunk and slept on the floor, shoes still on, breathing heavily like a man running from something that never stopped chasing him. Then, exactly 3 months after the burial, everything shifted again. One evening he returned home earlier than usual. The children noticed the change immediately. He had bathed, he had changed his clothes, and behind him stood a woman they had never seen before. "This is Aunt Kendia," he said flatly. "She will be staying with us." That was all. No explanation, no discussion. Aunt Kendia stepped forward, smiling, her teeth bright, her perfume strong enough to fill the room. "My angels," she said sweetly, touching Lulu's hair, squeezing Amara's arm, nodding at Kosi as if inspecting him. "Your father has told me so much about you." In public, she was perfect. At church, she cried louder than anyone when prayers were said for the dead. She wiped her eyes dramatically and hugged the children in front of people. "Poor things," she would say. "I will take care of them like my own." But grief recognizes truth. Inside the house, the sweetness did not last. Her voice changed when no one was watching. Her eyes hardened when doors closed. Amara became too stubborn. "Why does she look at me like that?" Aunt Kendia would ask their father. "This girl has pride." Kosi became strange. "She doesn't greet properly," she complained. "He watches people like an old man. That boy is not normal." And little Lulu became a burden. "Children her age should not cry this much," Aunt Kendia said sharply. "She is spoilt." Food began to disappear. Plates were served late. Portions became smaller. Sometimes the children ate only after everyone else was done. Punishments appeared. Kneeling, extra chores, harsh words thrown carelessly like stones. And through it all, their father looked away. When Aunt Kendia shouted, he stayed silent. When the children cried, he turned his back. When Amara tried to explain, he raised his hand. "Enough," he would say. "Don't disgrace me." That was when the children understood something terrible. They had not only lost their mother, they had lost their protector. And so, the house that once held laughter now held silence. The children who once felt safe now learned how fear sounds at night. They had buried their mother, And slowly, they were being buried too, under neglect, under cruelty, under a silence that refused to protect them. If this story is touching your heart so far, take a moment to comment below. Share what you're feeling. Your voice matters here. Because this is where part 1 ends. But what the house did not know, what Aunt Kendia did not know, what even their father did not understand, is that some promises do not die in the grave. Some love watches, some spirits listen, and some guardians wait until pain goes too far. If stories like this speak to you, remember to like this video so it can reach someone else who needs it, and subscribe for more stories that teach, heal, and remind us that love can outlive death. In part 2, the nights will begin to change. Dreams will speak, truth will surface, and justice will arrive. Not loudly, but surely. Stay with us. Watch part 2. Because this story has only just begun.